America's top diplomat warns that Beijing is speeding up its plans to reunite with Taiwan by force if necessary.
We are determined to make good on our commitments to Taiwan under the Taiwan Relations Act in supporting their ability to defend themselves. We remain fundamentally committed to the One China policy as well. That hasn't changed. That won't change. But at the heart of that was a commitment to resolve these differences peacefully. And if that's changing, then that does offer, unfortunately, prospects for very challenging situations going forward.
Blinken's comments came after Chinese President Xi Jinping spoke during the Communist Party's National Congress. Xi said the wheels of history are rolling on towards China's reunification, adding, "We reserve the option of taking all measures necessary." Amy Celico joins me now. She is a principal at Albright Stonebridge Group, a world-renowned foreign policy firm who specializes in China. Amy, the Secretary of State said Beijing was determined to pursue reunification on a much faster timeline. Why is he saying this? Is he seeing something new, or is this just kind of posturing?
It's interesting, John. I don't think that Secretary Blinken was intending to make news yesterday when he made those remarks in response to a question after he had spoken extensively about competition with China. He was asked about Taiwan, and in response to that question, he did offer his view that the Chinese government is in some ways changing the status quo and seeking more quickly to settle the Taiwan question. And he said the United States, as we long have believed, this issue needs to be settled peacefully by China and Taiwan, by those stakeholders. And the United States was calling on China to renounce the use of force. The quote that you just used from Xi Jinping's speech, his political report to the Party Congress on Sunday, actually broke no ground. China has never said that it would denounce any means necessary to see the reunification with Taiwan. And so President Xi was saying what he typically says. The secretary was saying consistent policy, but the headline seemed to indicate there was new news that China was seeking a quicker timeline to achieve reunification. And we haven't seen the evidence of that, in fact.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that we jumped at shadows on China. But there is something about China, which is that policymakers are constantly making news that they don't intend to on China because there is this confusion and ambiguity at its heart, stirred up by a president who has several times suggested the U.S. would behave militarily, not just support Taiwan's sovereignty, but in fact intervene militarily if things went the wrong way with respect to China and Taiwan. So we may be jumping at things, but there is some extra confusion in this policy at this moment, it would seem.
I completely agree. I have to say, in sympathy to the Biden administration, it does seem that Xi Jinping is in more of a hurry to achieve many of the goals that the Chinese Communist Party has set for itself. And that includes settling the Taiwan issue. It's double-digit spending in military modernization, specifically targeting amphibious assault, does seem to lend credence to China doesn't want to let this issue linger for too long, particularly as China is congratulating itself over how it has treated Hong Kong. Here in Washington, watching how China has treated Hong Kong, how China has become more aggressive and assertive on the global stage, has caused us to speak differently about the potential for a conflict in the Taiwan Strait. As Secretary Blinken said yesterday, the U.S. still supports, always has supported a one China policy and does not support Taiwan independence. However, he's asking that China renounce the use of force, and that is a change. And the other change that you mentioned, of course, is walking away from this concept of strategic ambiguity, where the United States doesn't say explicitly whether we would come to Taiwan's defense, active military defense, in the event of some military issue between Taiwan and China. That strategic ambiguity, we feel, in the United States has helped to maintain the status quo, a very uneasy status quo in the Taiwan Strait, but it's been important. And President Biden again and again has misspoken on that issue. The White House, every time, I think there have been 4, that he has gotten out in front of that, actively offering that U.S. military troops would come to the aid of Taiwan if China invades, if China takes aggressive military action, is a change in policy. It is walking away from strategic ambiguity. So I think the issue is that the status quo around Taiwan is becoming less and less tenable because there are more ambitious aspirations around it for China to make sure reunification happens, for the 23 million people of Taiwan maybe not seeing peaceful reunification along the lines of how Hong Kong has been treated in its best interest in the future. And so Taiwan's political leaders also straying from, again, 40 years of a pretty consistent policy. So all 3 actors in this triangle, I think, are straying, and that is leading to more confusion and more concern about the prospect of military intervention.
Absolutely. Thank you for breaking that down for us, Amy. Amy Celico, thank you so much.
Thank you.